Now, the Al Jazeera television network has submitted the case of the slain journalist Shireen Abu Akleh to the International Criminal Court, saying she was killed by Israeli forces. The Qatar-based channel said it had unearthed new evidence on the death of the Palestinian American who was shot whilst covering an Israeli army raid in Jenin in the occupied West Bank 6 months ago. Any person or group can file a complaint to the ICC prosecutor for investigation, but the Hague-based court is under no obligation to take on such cases. The Israeli army conceded in September that one of its soldiers had likely shot Abu Akleh after mistaking her for a militant. Israel has said it will not cooperate with any external probe into the reporter's death. Now, tributes are being paid this evening to Kirstie Alley, the two-time Emmy winner whose roles on the TV mega hit Cheers and in the Look Who's Talking films made her one of the biggest stars in American comedy. She died on Monday at the age of 71. Miss Alley died of cancer that had only been diagnosed recently. That's according to her children, True and Lily Parker. She starred opposite Ted Danson as Rebecca Howe on Cheers, the NBC sitcom about a Boston bar. Miss Alley won an Emmy for Best Lead Actress in a comedy series for the role in 1991. She was awarded a second Emmy for Best Lead Actress in a miniseries or television movie in 1993 for playing the title role in the CBS TV movie David's Mother. And that's Kirstie Alley, who has died at the age of 71. Business news now. It's a term that politicians prefer not to utter, but the R word, recession, is very much on the minds of policymakers and on the lips of consumers. Well, earlier today, the head of global investment bank Goldman Sachs warned that a US recession is possible next year, a likely result of higher interest rates in the wake of sky-high inflation. But economic forecasters have hardly covered themselves in glory of late. Very few predicted the double-digit inflation. Does that mean forecasts of a downturn could also be wide off the mark? For more on this, let's cross over to Arise Business correspondent Laurie Lard, who's in London. Laurie, why are economists nearly united in forecasting a recession in the world's biggest economies?
Let me check, Charles. You can hear me now, yes?
Certainly can hear you loud and clear.
Marvelous. And I'm glad that you brought up that economists are united, because often in my experience, and my experience is vast, I have been doing this a long time, Charles, when you see economists united, it often means that they all have it wrong. I'm always a little concerned when economists have centered on one projection. But the thinking is like this. Inflation is out of control, double digits in most of the world, and even higher than that in the emerging world. Most developed world countries have an inflation target of 2%. So if you're looking at 10% in the US, in the European Union, in the UK, that is so far above their target rate of inflation. And the way that central banks deal with this is to raise interest rates. Now, of course, raising interest rates essentially cuts off financing for many, many households. It makes it more expensive to borrow. That restrains consumer demand, and often that does push an economy into recession. So that is the reason for the forecast. And again, as you say, economists united in thinking there will be a recession. Haven't seen it yet in any place other than the UK, where the economy has started to contract.
Well, I mean, that's economists, and I suppose a lot of economists work with central banks or in central banks, and central bankers appear to have also missed the rise in inflation.
And I think this is such a key point. Every central bank, or every developed world central bank, got this wrong, Charles. Remember when inflation first started to perk up, when the global economy was coming out of the pandemic, and we had those supply chain issues, and economists said, or central banks said, don't worry, these are supply chain issues. That's why prices are rising. Prices are only rising for goods transitory. Remember that word. Well, it turned out that inflation wasn't transitory. And then we had the war in Ukraine that pushed up energy prices and food prices as well. Then the central banker said, said, look, yeah, we see that prices are rising, but we can't do anything about the price of energy. That's Vladimir Putin's fault. And now what we're seeing is inflation going beyond food and energy into things like housing, rent payments, clothing payments. And now central bankers are actually saying, wait a second, gosh, we did get this wrong. And one of the things through this episode of inflation that has really struck with me, Charles, is Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Federal Reserve, saying on 2 occasions over the past couple of months, he has basically admitted that he doesn't know what's going on with inflation. Late last summer, he said, I now understand how much I didn't understand about inflation. A couple of weeks ago, he said, we don't have that much historical data on how an economy behaves when prices are this high. That is very concerning because the central bankers got it wrong in the first place. It makes you wonder if we have someone like Jerome Powell saying we're still trying to understand the dynamics of this inflationary episode. It makes you wonder, are they using the right tools to fight inflation?
That's a very good point, Laurie. And whilst we're waiting to see if those aggressive rate hikes were the right policy decision, what's the economic data looking like at the moment? And we've got about 30 seconds.
I'm glad you asked because, as I mentioned, the UK is contracting. No other large economy is. Today, we had German factory orders up almost 1%, much higher than anybody thought. And remember, Germany was the economy that was meant to be so badly hit by those very high energy prices. Employment still growing very, very quickly in the US, as are wages. So this recession that everyone is expecting, we're not seeing it materialize yet anywhere other than the UK.
As always, we're up to date. Thank you very much indeed. Laurie Lard, Arise business correspondent, talking to me there from London.